So every day here at WinTech is like Christmas because we're opening up presents every day for clients. Today is reporting day. We've got client reports to get out, so monthly reports on availability and performance and all that sort of things. So we do that for our managed customers. So that's part of what I've got to do today is review those. I've also got new server and networking stuff that's going to get set up. So Jono is going to organise to start configuring all that. That's got to be out on site next week. That's the crux of today.
Where's site?
That's the site in the valley, so the restaurant. So that's all getting sorted. Yeah, and that's it. Facebook advertising, that's the other thing I'm working on today. Getting Facebook stuff done. So we're starting to do a bit of Facebook ads, which we'll then look at doing LinkedIn as well for probably not so much advertising on LinkedIn, but that's the fun part. Look at the server just arrived. Let's see what we have in here. This is the battery backup for it, isn't it? Grab that in. Don't drop it. That's actually the battery backup. So every server you need to have a battery backup. It's one of the most essential things, especially for Australia, because of all the different storms. Because if the server's doing any processing right at that very moment and is doing the disks, can screw up the computer and the server dramatically, which causes a tremendous amount of downtime. So that's why it is a big, massive UPS, but it'll be running switches. And you want to get stuff that's good quality. Power cords and everything nicely already here, actually. Just didn't have my monitor. Go grab the monitor. This is part of my life, is crawling underneath desks is one of the big things in IT. Oh. Mojos are going for the wireless network that's being installed to broadcast it for the staff, and an open network, completely secured. Constantly in the world of computers there's updates that are being applied because of security risks, because there's always trying to keep ahead of the bad guys. So that's why there's constantly you have to have updates, security updates, firmware updates, and that's not just the bad guys. That could also be your own different agencies that have access to certain stuff. In this case, you'll have the hard drives, the multiple hard drives. So depending on, now I've already installed these hard drives in the system right now. Currently, that's what RAID is. So when you set up a RAID, you have to tell it how the server should perform. So when a database or anything is being written onto these drives, you have multiple drives to increase the performance, right? And that's called a stripe. So we'll have two drives that are set up running concurrently for a database, and then the other two drives will be set up as a backup. So if one of the drives fails, then it'll let you know, and then you can replace that drive, so you have a faster speed on the server, plus you have redundancy. Depending on the server, some of them can have all the way to 10 to 30 drives. It just really depends on what type of requirements that you have. Okay, so when you do all the proper checks and everything, and you're installing it from scratch, just the initial setup of everything is at least 3 to 4 hours. So now, why is So now we need to get into the installing of the server software. So I'm going to get the latest version of the Windows Server 2000, actually Server 2012, the latest and the updated version of it. So I just got into the BIOS, or the basic input operating system, just checking the configuration stuff and just changing some configuration settings so it will boot from my memory stick. So here's the configuration menu. So it's basically a simplified menu system. So now it's asking me basic questions, that how would you want the server and what version of the server would you like to be installed. So I'm just going to select the server with the GUI, so it'll have a GUI interface so it doesn't look like DOS. So now it's watching paint dry basically in the computer world. Now it's just copying all the files. But the big, I guess the juicy parts of the server installation is after the server has copied all the files into the computer, and then we have to go through all the configuration, DHCP, security, firewalls, you name it. We'll have to scope out a plan and how we're going to put this new server into the infrastructure. So here's the server up and running currently. So I'm just going to HP's website and checking out, making sure that all the drivers are up to date. So next we have the server switch that is going in. This is a HP Aruba switch, which has integrated management that allows you to have all kinds of capability in switching, duplication ports, management, failover from different internet providers to you name it, it does it all basically. Now it's going to open it up and start doing the configuration. And with any piece of equipment, again, this will have to have actually an upgraded firmware on there, because then I actually did one of these already on site for another client, and the firmware needed to be upgraded or it wouldn't work with actually Google Chrome. It's all the good stuff. So there it is. So lovely unboxing. You get that new switch smell, just like that new car smell. And you have that nice smell of electronics. So every day here at WinTech is like Christmas, because we're opening up presents every day for clients. So I'm going to put it over here close to it, and I'm going to use the server to do the configuration at the same time. So this would normally go into a rack or whatever the client has give us to actually have it to be installed. The other one was a 24 port one. This is a beast of actually a 48 port one. It's actually got PoE on the entire switch on the every port. So what PoE means is it allows you to have send power through the Ethernet to power your phones, so you don't have to have a power cable for your VoIP phone. So now it's just a matter of getting the power connection into this switch. So, and depending on what requirements and firewall and different options what we would set up, we could do a different configuration for VLAN so that the network would be segmented, so that for security, so if you have wireless access points, for instance, this would be going into one of the corporate venues that will be doing sharing internet for customers. So we would set up separate VLANs so that no one can hack through it. So when you go out to the regular guests into the world, you'll see all these free wireless access networks. Some people have them set up correctly, and some of them people don't. They just plug it in and let it broadcast. But here we're going to configure it properly with the VLAN and segment it so that nobody can access the actual corporate infrastructure from the server. Now the switch is booting up. So it does a pre-check. switch is just like a splitter, I guess you would call, just like in cable TV terms, that you'd have, you're duplicating the signal. So this will tell basically the packets, the zeros and ones, where to go, which part, what at very moment. It's just doing its diagnostic. And here on this site, it's telling me that the fans and everything are all good. And so it's ready to go. So I'm now going to plug it in to the server. So I'm going to create it from our switch that we already currently have into the port 1. And then I'm going to get another cable that's here already. So now the server is connected into the switch. So this would be something like we would have set up on site. So we will have this all pre-configured here in the office beforehand and setting it up on site. A lot of this stuff takes a lot of time, and to be on site would inconvenience the customer. Primarily is why we do a lot of pre-configuration, because this would take an enormous amount of time to obviously set up, download the firmware. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back end. Okay, so the switch is now all configured. I have it all working. I've done the firmware upgrade. I've confirmed that I've set up the VLAN information into it. And I've done some testing with the wireless devices and everything's working beautifully. So now the hardware is ready to be deployed to the customer and set up on premises. Now the fun part of the on-site work and booking the Uber and getting down there and going through all the parking and all that good stuff, and then meeting the new client. It's great fun because I'm actually quite a people person. So I like actually getting outside and seeing their happy smiling faces and when everything gets actually set up. And then if they need any assistance later on, or if they're having issues, then they actually know who they're actually speaking to on the phone when they call in, not just someone in the call center, and actually the third level tech doing the actual work.